All right, 3 o'clock. What's up? Chad here. The Mariners on fire. They have won 10 straight, unreal, and they start the day a half game up on Houston in the AL West. They'll meet the Royals at 4:40. Bryce Miller on the bump. Down from the NFL, the 49ers say Brock Purdy against the Astros down in H-Town. From the NFL, the 49ers say Brock Purdy could return Sunday when the 49ers at Oregon and Oregon State from Autzen Stadium. Kickoff is going to be at noon. Pregame starts at 10 on and Oregon State from Autzen Stadium. Kickoff is going to be at noon. Pregame starts at 10 on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KX. The game can be seen on Big Ten Network. We're going to preview 420, and then the one, the only, the voice of your Oregon State will join the show at 420, and then the one, the only, the voice of your Oregon State Beavers, Mike Parker, on the show at 520. The Rip City Drive's coming at you right now.
Live from the Coors Light Studios, it's time for the Rip City Drive, hosted by the crazy and often irrational Chad Doing. Coors Light, mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill.
Ohtani 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts in his career against Robertson. The 1-0 pitch. Ohtani launches high in the air, deep right field. Number 50 emphatically leaves the yard. On a night he started the game and threw 5 no-hit innings, he then comes up to the plate in the 8th and launches home run number 50 on the season. It went 430 feet, and we got a 1-run game.
Swung on and blasted. Right field. History on its way. It is gone. Cal Raleigh, crown him. Number 55 for Cal. Already the all-time single-season home run catcher king, and now the most ever in a single season for a switch hitter. He surpasses Mickey Mantle. The legendary march through history for Cal Raleigh in a season we will never, ever forget. Here's the first pitch. Swung on, hit well, center field. It's going back. Isbell at the warning track, at the wall. He has done it! Home run, Cal Raleigh. He has tied Ken Griffey Jr. for the most in Seattle Mariners history. Number 56 for Cal Raleigh. An amazing, historic, incredible season. And he has tied one of the greatest of all time in Ken Griffey Jr.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Chad Doing starts now.
One time in hell, I never forget it. Well, you know the rule on the show. If Shacker's going to open it up with Phil Collins, who am I to talk over Phil Collins? I absolutely love this song, No Son of Mine. It just makes me feel old because it still sounds brand new in my ears, but it came out in 1991. Such a great tune. All right, let me give you these numbers. I saw this posted today by the Godfather, Dwight James, who, by the way, was on the show yesterday. You can always podcast or listen live via our free iHeartRadio app. Cal Raleigh's homers totals by seasons. 2, 27, 30, 34, and now this year, 56. He has now tied Ken Griffey Jr. for the most in a season in Mariners franchise history, which is unreal. He's going to surpass freaking Ken Griffey. And he's doing it as a catcher. I asked the Godfather yesterday before the Mariner game when they took on the Royals down in Kansas City. I said, Godfather, do you think he can reach 60? And he said, no, it's going to be too tough with 12 games to go. Well, he had 2 bombs last night. So I texted him this morning. I said, I know that you think it's not possible, but with 2 last night, and 11 games to go. Can he get to 60? He said, yeah, I was probably wrong with my comments yesterday. He can absolutely get to 60. It's unbelievable. Cal Raleigh, not Julio Rodriguez, is the franchise, and he's having a tremendous season. And the Mariners, I can't figure them out. They're either on fire or in the dumps, and right now they are red hot at the best time of the year. 10 straight wins, and they opened up the critical road trip last night by bashing in the Royals' grills. And now they play them again today, but the critical stretch is coming up Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Can they somehow, some way find to solve the Astros riddle and win that series down in Houston? I hope so. I said earlier this year, as a sports fan, it is absurd to think because we were born in a particular city, because we grew up in a certain region, because we went to a certain school, that somehow we have to support our teams no matter what. No, we don't. If your team is not going to try and win, if they're going to make bad decisions and frustrate you and make your life worse, you don't have to watch their games. You don't have to go. You don't have to support them. You can boycott them. You can become a fan of a different team. Why put yourself through the misery? And I was like, you know what? The Mariners are crazy. They got off to a good start. Then they went into the tank. And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not going to put myself through the turmoil of watching this team attempt to try to win. And then the front office did the unthinkable and got aggressive at the deadline. And then they got red hot. And you look at their pitching rotation, their bullpen, their lineup, and you come to one simple conclusion. They're good enough to win the World Series. And then shortly after that, they go on a road trip and go right back into the tank and fall multiple games behind Houston in the West. And it was just a couple of weeks ago when they were holding on for dear life to even be considered in the wild card. And now, all of a sudden, they come back home, they get things put together, and now they're on fire. It's ridiculous. Cal Raleigh is unreal this year. So much fun to watch. And what Michael Shacker was just asking me before the show is Cal Raleigh turning young kids out there fans? Is he making young baseball fans? Shacker and I don't trust a younger generation that's bombarded and distracted by all sorts of technology. We need young baseball fans. We need someone to carry on the tradition because this time of year is great. Major League Baseball is awesome. The regular season is excruciatingly long, but when you get to the stretch run and into the postseason, you're reminded of why it's terrific. Now, I believe the NFL has replaced, college football has replaced baseball as America's pastime, but it doesn't matter. It's still a great game, and I love what the Mariners are doing right now. And if they're able to win this division, can you imagine T-Mobile Park come postseason time and what that's going to sound like? It's going to be electric. Electric. So I'm pretty pumped. And they'll take on the Royals coming up at 4:40. Now, on the show today, we're going to have a chance to take a look at the Civil War coming up on Saturday. Jeff Schwartz, former Duck, now with Fox Sports Radio, works with Brian Noe. Bino! Who's going to be on the show tomorrow. He'll join us at 4:20. And then the one, the only Doc, Mike Parker, the voice of your Oregon State Beavs, is going to join the show at 5:20. And he did not hesitate this morning. He's got a lot of things going on, Mike Parker, because he's a legend. I reached out to him and said, hey, Doc, do you have time to join me today at 5:20? And in a nanosecond, he said, yes, Doc. So I can't wait to talk to Mike Parker. I'm still waiting for him to go back to old Mike Parker and start really melting down, but he's not going to. He's showing great restraint, great maturity. He has changed and become a different type of broadcaster. But I'm always hoping that we're still going to get some vintage Mike. So I'm looking forward to talking to Mike Parker, and we'll talk about this game. I mentioned my thoughts yesterday on the Oregon State Beavers and where they're at right now with head coach Trent Bray. I know people are frustrated, but this is something, and I know none of us, including myself, want to hear the word patience or process or any of that type of nonsense when it comes to sports. It's like, no, what are you doing to try and win and compete? But he took over the program in ruins. And just like Jonathan Smith did when Gary Anderson drove the Oregon State bus into the cliff or the mountain or whatever you want to call it, flew the Oregon State plane into a mountain, he tried to ruin the program. So Jonathan Smith, it took time to rebuild. And it's going to take time for Trent Bray. And you have a young coach who had no head coaching experience. So they've got to continue to press forward. And we're going to learn a lot about Coach Bray. Can he keep the group together? Can he keep the guys focused? Can he find somebody that can snap the football? You know, these are questions that are yet to be determined. Of course, they're up against it against Oregon. More than likely, they'll get throttled. But then the schedule after this game will open up and provide some opportunities to win games and feel better. I want to see that process, how it plays out. I just think it's too early in his tenure to say, you got to get rid of him. He's not the answer. He may not be. But this school needs resources. They need talent. And I just don't think it's in their best interest right now to jump ship. Not to mention the opening of the 30-day window in the portal. You could pretty much say goodbye to all your players. So there you have it. Oregon, on the other end, is terrific. One of the best teams in the country. They look stout. They look like a team that can go into Penn State and get the win, which I think they will. You've got Dante Moore, who's playing great football and adds more of a dynamic skill set than what we saw with Dylan Gabriel and also Bo Nix. Now, think about what I just said there. Dylan Gabriel and Bo Nix were fabulous, but Dante Moore brings a different skill set. And he brings the opportunity for the explosion plays, especially in getting the ball downfield, stretching the defense. But most importantly, as I mentioned yesterday, their running game right now is off the chain. And I love that. You need balance. You need to be able to run the football. You've got to be dominant at the line of scrimmage. The offensive line and the cohesiveness of that group early in the year has been surprising to me, but they're averaging 6.99 yards per rush. That, ladies and gentlemen, is an elite number. And when you run the football like that, you're going to put yourself in a position to really find the big explosion plays. And when the defense is so worried about the run and you've got that type of balance, imagine the type of openings that's going to create for Dante Moore. So the Ducks should feel real good about where they're at. You get another game to tune up before the Penn State game. Stay healthy, take care of business early, and show Oregon State what you're all about. So, yeah, the Ducks will win big. I think they're favored by like 35. Oregon State fan, did you ever think there'd be a day and age where Oregon would be a 35-point favorite over the Beavs? It's unfortunate. But the Beavs need talent. The thing I underestimated about Oregon State this year is the overall lack of talent on the roster. Skill position players, they just don't have a lot of talent. And when you got to match up and play teams like skill position players, they just don't have a lot of talent. And when you got to match up and play teams like Texas Tech or heck, even Cal, or in this case, Oregon, it's going to be a problem. But the good thing is they will be taking on teams on the schedule that are more in their stratosphere, and they're going to have a chance to win games. The question is, can Trent Bray keep this group together? All right, 503-248-0620. That is the telephone number if you want to jump on board. Jeff Schwartz coming up at 4:20. Mike Parker at 5:20. You can find me on X at Chad and Rip City. I do appreciate your time, my friends. Hope you're enjoying the weather out there. It's spectacular as we are coming up on the end of summertime. But let's do this, man. Let's have a good day today and talk a lot of ball. And don't forget Brian Noe tomorrow. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, props to my man Michael Shacker playing a little George Benson. You know, we always have that discussion, greatest guitarist of all time. And my favorite song, or one that I would recommend that you check out sometime. Like, let's say it's a Sunday afternoon, the weather's nice, you got nothing going on, and you need to relax, maybe having a nice little beverage. My Latin Brother by George Benson. As you get deeper into the song and he starts to really get after the guitar, it's like, holy cow. I wish my hands did that. Yeah, this right here. My Latin Brother. Like, you ever watched an artist, like with the guitar or the drums or whatever it is that they're doing? It's like, I wish my hands could do that. I wish I could move my hand that fast. And the fingers. Like, how do you create such greatness? So I'm a big fan of George Benson. I've not seen him in concert, unfortunately. Yeah, this is a good song. This is a good Sunday afternoon song, maybe a Sunday morning song. You know, when you're not rushed or trying to get to work or dealing with traffic, all the nonsense in life. Yeah, this is good. All right, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. Name of that song is My Latin Brother. You can find me on X at Chad and Rip City. Let's go out to the phones. Pat wants to talk about the Mariners and the Civil War. Ducks, Beavers, kickoff at noon. The pregame will start right at 10 on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KX. And we're going to talk with a former Duck and a Beav on the show today. Mike Parker, the voice of your Oregon State Beavers, will join us at 5:20. Jeff Schwartz coming up at 4:20. Let's go out and bring Pat onto the show. Pat, I appreciate the call. First off, what's your take on what you're seeing with the Mariners right now, riding a 10-game winning streak going into their game tonight with Kansas City?
Well, I think they're on fire, and I think they're on fire for the right time. You know, I think we need to give their skipper a little bit of praise, too. You know, he's really got them dialed in, and I think they're really answering what the fans have been wanting. You know, they wanted a contender, and we're right there at the right time. And I'm looking forward to them to doing their best.
Yeah, I love it, man. The Mariners on fire right now. A lot of credit to go around. The players, the manager, obviously the front office for getting aggressive at the deadline. It's been nice. What's your take on what we're going to see with the Civil War, Oregon and Oregon State on Saturday?
Well, I think it's going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be a 60-plus for the Ducks and maybe 14 for the Beavs.
Yikes.
I just really feel that the Ducks are really on fire. They got it really dialed in, and it's sad that it possibly the last game, you know, might be a one-sider. I would like to see it be more closer, but the talent just isn't there.
Yeah. No, it's true, and I think that's the key, Pat, and as always, I appreciate your call, but you're right, there's a true talent disparity. Oklahoma State, when they came to town, Mike Gundy, their head coach, knew that they were playing a different game than Oregon. And Oregon State right now, they're entering this game on Saturday, and it's no disrespect to the Beavs. They're just playing a different brand of college football. Oregon right now has positioned themselves to where they're one of the premier programs in the country. Their facilities are top-notch. Their brand recognition is top-notch. Their recruiting is top-notch. The amount of money they're spending on their roster is top-notch. Now, it's not number one, but they are doing everything they need to do to be able to compete with the likes of Ohio State or Michigan or Miami or take your pick, Georgia. They are. The problem is for Oregon State, for Washington State, and all these other small schools, they just don't have the resources to compete at that level. And I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but until or if they're able to make some type of changes, maybe we get a college football commissioner to where they can balance the system out a little bit, you're just going to continue to see the rich get richer. That's the way it is. It's a different brand of college football. This is not the college football that we grew up with. And I'm not complaining. I just know that Oregon State, like, I'm not going to look at them any differently based on the result on Saturday. And Pat's right. It's probably going to be 56-7 or 60-14 or take your pick. I just know that it's unfortunate to go into the Civil War, and this is one of those years where I'm like, one team has no chance to win. Like, there is no scenario that can play out in my mind where Oregon State ends Saturday on top. It's just not going to happen. And I think you all know that too. So we'll see. But again, for Oregon State right now, it's not about the final score. I want to see how the guys respond. I want to see how Trent Bray manages this storm, because it's a full-on storm. You're winless, getting your face kicked in, criticism is coming. Can he continue to keep those guys engaged and continue to battle? I think that's critical. So we'll see. There you have it. But it is a different brand. And there are certain teams at the top where they're spending big. And that's why you're seeing some of the other schools that are not near the top in terms of money spent or resources, coaches who are encouraging their fan base and their donors to really get active and get involved. Because that's what it's all about. Kenny Dillingham down at Arizona State, he's done a great job there thus far, but he continues to communicate the importance of making sure that they have the resources necessary to keep their roster together. Because if you don't, and some of the other schools start to step in, it can change everything. Ohio State, Penn State, LSU, Miami, Georgia, Oregon, Florida State, Texas, Illinois is 9, Texas A&M is 10. You've got Oklahoma sitting there at 11. And then the other schools, Tennessee, Alabama. Those are schools, each one that I just named, that have the resources to be able to really invest in their facilities, their roster, the whole shebang. And there are other schools. But we're now looking at a different age in college football. But I am excited about Oregon. I think they're great. I think Oregon's great. And I called it before the year. I think they're better than last year's squad. And last year was a good squad. But this year they're more explosive. I think they're better at the line of scrimmage. They're clearly running the football better. I just think the sky's the limit for Oregon. And I cannot wait to see Dante Moore in a high-leverage situation at Penn State. Because if you go in there and get the win, and you've got the tiebreak on the Nittany Lions, all of a sudden you've got a clear pathway to the Big Ten title game. It's pretty simple. And there aren't too many speed bumps along the way. Yes, they have to go to Washington. Yes, they've got to go to Iowa, but they'll be favored in both those games. And the only game right now you look at where they're going to be an underdog is Penn State. The good thing is Penn State, just go back and look at the last 3 or 4 years under James Franklin. He's a good man and a great recruiter. He's a good coach. He just doesn't win big games. Their 2 biggest wins last year were against SMU and Boise in the playoff. But the other key games they played, they got worked by Oregon in the Big Ten title game. They lose to Ohio State at home. That's just their MO. So Oregon's got a great chance. And Dan Lanning is right now one of the hottest coaches in the country. And he's getting better. Let's keep in mind with, Trent Bray, Dan Lanning, very similar. When he took over, he had no head coaching experience at Oregon. And he won't admit to it, I would guess. But some of his decision-making, game management, when to go for it on 4th down, those type of decisions, wasn't great. And it cost his team. But he's getting better at managing games, making decisions, and still keeping, that aggressive mentality, but being a little bit wiser in how you make those type of choices. And that's good. You learn on the job. And that's the way all the coaches do. You need time to be able to grow into the role. So, and I'm going to get to it, but that press conference from Dabo Swinney yesterday was unreal. He's under criticism, too. The Clemson Tigers off to a rough start. 2 losses on the year at 1-2. They lose to LSU and Georgia Tech, and they survived Troy after getting down 16-3 at halftime of that game. They scored 24 straight to win it, but they have not looked good. But Dabo Swinney, the advantage of winning multiple championships and having a track record of success is you can basically say whatever you want. But that's the expectation in college football, big-time college football. I think, as he pointed out, their worst season in 14 years was 9 wins. And yet that's not good enough. He's won multiple championships. It's not good enough. The expectations of your fan base and your donors when they're investing a lot in the program, it's a totally different ballgame. Fascinated by it. So we'll get to that as well. Jeff Schwartz coming up at 4:20, and then Mike Parker, the voice of your Oregon State Beavers, is going to join the show at 5:20. And we'll get his take on Trent Bray, on the situation right now, and what he's looking for over the back half of the season. Can they keep it together? That's really what I want to see. According to the 49ers, there's a possibility that Brock Purdy has got a chance to return this weekend against the Cards. I thought Mac Jones did a very good job of stepping in and leading the 49ers to a victory on the road against the Saints. And once again, just a sign of Kyle Shanahan's ability to work with quarterbacks. It's pretty amazing with all the injuries they've suffered over the last few years, the different guys he's had to plug in. They drafted Trey Lance, and that was a bust. For example, of a guy drafted into a tough situation, had a falling out in New England. Example of a guy drafted into a tough situation, had a falling out in New England, and now has resurfaced and maybe has a chance to resurrect his career. Like Baker Mayfield, like Geno Smith, like Sam Darnold. We're seeing a different situation in the NFL. Normally, back in the day when I was younger, you get drafted in the first round, you don't work out as a quarterback, you're done. Teams move on. You don't get a second chance. But now, we're seeing these quarterbacks wind up, with better coaches. Guys like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan getting a chance to work with a better organization. And when you plug these guys into a better team with better supporting talent or a cast around them, and look at the success. Another growing story to watch is Daniel Jones. The Colts have had one of the most unbelievable runs through the first 2 weeks with Daniel Jones at quarterback. They have not punted in 2 games, including the game on Sunday against my Denver Broncos. He shredded them. And I think they had 7 drives with 7 scores in the opener against Miami. But that's Daniel Jones. He was not good at New York with the Giants. And so you step back and you're like, well, what was going on? Well, did you watch the game with the Giants in Dallas this weekend? Russell Wilson under constant pressure because he's playing behind a bum offensive line. I mean, that thing was just kind of pieced together with, chicken wire and duct tape. And so it's a bad offensive line, a bad supporting cast. All of a sudden you put Daniel Jones behind one of the better offensive lines in the NFL with one of the best running backs in the NFL and some playmakers. Look at him. He's playing competent football. The other thing that's key when you listen to Shane Steichen, their head coach, Daniel Jones is a professional in terms of his preparation, the amount of time he spends watching film, his understanding of football terminology. Like, he's everything you want because he's smart. And he puts in the time, and now he's got a supporting cast, and he's having a chance to resurrect his career. I'm happy for him. Because a lot of times it's easy for us to criticize these guys, like, oh, that guy can't play, he can't do this, that guy's terrible. But then you look at the situation, the team that drafted them or the supporting cast, you realize, like, well, it'd be tough for anyone to have success there. Imagine, well, I think one of the perfect examples would be Joey Harrington, right? Drafted by the Lions, for years and years before they hired Dan Campbell and had good coaches and better players, they couldn't get it right. Bad decision after bad decision. Front office having no clue of what they're doing, and just bad football teams year after year. What if Joey Harrington had a chance at redemption with a guy like Sean McVay or a Shane Steichen, or take your pick? Look at what Shane Steichen did with Jalen Hurts. It's pretty impressive. Now, speaking of Jalen Hurts, I know a lot of people are frustrated with the brotherly shove and the way the Eagles utilize it. I do not think the league should get rid of the play. It's really frustrating to watch because you know that once they get into a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, they're not going to be stopped. What I do want, though, is if the guards are going to fire off early, you got to call them for a false start. You've got to make sure that you can officiate that properly so that those guys aren't firing off early, like they were against Kansas City on Sunday. Now, I'm not saying that's the reason why Kansas City lost. They've got their own issues right now, and they're going to play the Giants in New York coming up on Sunday. That's one of those games where I can guarantee you the Chiefs win. I don't know what the score is going to be, but there's no way that Kansas City is going to 0-3. They're going to be fine. They just have to work through some of their injuries and their issues right now. But don't get rid of a play unless you can prove that it's going to bring potential injury. The other issue right now is that officials are having a hard time officiating it because they can't see the ball. It's a mass of humanity all jammed up at the line of scrimmage. but the Eagles have perfected the play. And I don't want a play taken out or being banned from play just because a team's won a championship and they're really good at executing it and nobody else has learned how to stop it. This is what I want. I want to see a defensive coordinator come up with the answer. How do you stop that play? How can you counter to be able to have success against the brotherly shove? That's what I want. I don't want it to be banned. I want to see a defensive coordinator come up with a game plan to stop it. But it's so hard because they have perfected. They get so low, and then they just come under you and they blow you off your feet, and then you have no leverage and you're done. It's amazing. And then Jalen Hurts is a very strong, very stout starting quarterback with his lower base. Strong legs, strong body. And by the way, Jalen Hurts is a pretty cool character too. Very cool customer. There's a lot of good young quarterbacks in the league who provide good leadership. Josh Allen with the Bills. Obviously, Dak with the Cowboys. Jalen Hurts with the Eagles. Jaden Daniels with the Commanders. Lamar Jackson with the Ravens. Joe Burrow, but unfortunately, he might miss the rest of the year with that turf toe. Jared Goff doing a great job of leading the Lions. Jordan Love with the Packers. J.J. McCarthy, we'll see with time with the Vikings. I like C.J. Stroud. Daniel Jones doing a heck of a job with the Colts right now. I think Cam Ward is working really hard and has shown some promising signs through a rough start with the Titans. And he doesn't have a lot of supporting cast around him either. I like what I've seen from Michael Penix. Baker Mayfield's one of the great stories in the NFL right now. And then you've got the ridiculous AFC West. Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes, Geno Smith, and then Justin Herbert, who's playing the best football of any quarterback right now in the NFL through 2 weeks. He's been great. Broncos and Chargers coming up this weekend from Los Angeles. And then look at Arizona. They're 2-0. Kyler Murray playing well. Matthew Stafford and the Rams. And then I think Sam Darnold's done a good job through 2 weeks with the Seahawks. A lot of great storylines, but great young quarterbacks who are providing leadership with their play, with their work habits, with their study habits, and the way that they kind of set the tone. Because in that position, you got to show up first. You got to leave last. You've got to know everything about the playbook. You got to know where your teammates need to be, and you've got to go out there and direct traffic. It's such a tough job. All right, Jeff Schwartz coming up at 4:20. Mike Parker at 5:20. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. I'm Chad Doing. You got the Rip City Drive right here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, Rip City Drive, Chad doing with you. Jeff Schwartz coming up at 4:20. And then Mike Parker will join the show at 5:20. I want to play this audio for you. And by the way, we'll get to this probably at 5. But Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys, truly is the gift that keeps on giving as he dives deeper into Glory Hole and gives us some clarification on exactly what Glory Hole means to him. I want to play it right now, but I'm going to save it because I just believe that deserves more time. Jerry Jones he's a treasure and should be celebrated. How many owners in all of sports will come out, talk to the media all the time, do regular hits on the radio, and talk about Glory Hole? Only one. His name is Jerry Jones. Now, he might be crazy, but I like him. And if you haven't watched the Cowboys doc on Netflix, you need to watch it. It's fabulous. Shacker, have you watched the Cowboys documentary on Netflix? Because a lot of your 49ers are in it. Have you watched it?
I regret not watching it.
Oh, that's so unlike you. Because you're all about football and sports and everything.
I know. I've been watching, because it came out during the preseason, and I was knuckle deep in the preseason games, and I've been watching all the games. I just haven't gone back to watch entertaining stuff on Netflix.
All right.
I don't even know why I pay for Netflix. Oh, yeah, Karate Kid will be there in 2 weeks. Karate Kid Legends.
Oh, you got to watch that. I went and saw it in the theater. You're going to love it. You haven't seen it yet, have you?
I have not seen it yet.
Ooh. Hey, Duke, the UPS guy, have you seen Karate Kid Legends, my friend? I think Duke got upset because he thought the ending of Cobra Kai, which we loved, he thought was a little bit far-fetched. I thought it was incredible. The apology and the way that Kreese and Johnny were able to mend that relationship at the end was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the whole show is crazy when you think about it. It's a karate tournament from the 80s getting rebooted here in the 2020s. Yeah.
And it works.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I can give you like a million reasons why that shouldn't work, and yet it worked really well. And Karate Kid Legends should not work as a movie, but it works. You're going to like it. I can't wait till you watch it. I'm happy for you. I'm jealous because there are certain things I wish I could go back in time to be able to experience it again for the first time. And certain movies are like that where I'm like, man, that was a good experience. I want to do it again. But I can't. But you get to, and so good for you, Shacker. All right, Dabo Swinney, the Clemson Tigers. You know, it's weird. Dabo Swinney most of the time irritates me. I respect him, and I think he's a good dude and obviously a great head coach. But some of his comments, it's like, come on, man, shut your pie hole. Like when he came out about players being paid and said, the day the players start getting paid, I'm out. I'm done. I knew that was a bunch of poppycock because who's going to walk away from making millions to coach a kid's game? Okay, let me get this straight. You're making like $10 million to coach Clemson. You're just going to walk away because players are now getting a piece of the pie. Please close your pie hole, coach, because you're full of it. And by the way, you're still there coaching. I do think that he bristles with the new age of college football, unlike Dan Lanning or Kenny Dillingham, the younger coaches who are embracing the new age. Like, you might want to get with the times and make sure that Clemson remains at the top. That means you're going to have to use the portal from time to time. That also means you're going to have to pay for talent. I'm just saying. And Clemson, it shouldn't be a problem, right? They got Jake. It's more like new money, unlike the SEC that is old money. Clemson's got money. But Dabo, responding to the criticism with his team opening up 1 for 2, this is what he had to say.
If they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. To win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we're a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last. Always has been. Always will be. And I would just say if you give up on us if you don't believe in us because we've lost 2 games down to the last straight and you didn't believe in us anyway, so it don't matter. You wasn't all in anyway. If you're all in, you burn the ships, man. There ain't no exit strategy. Like, you're freaking all in. And hey, listen, I mean, if Clemson's tired of winning, they send me on my way, but I'm gonna go somewhere else and coach. I ain't going to the beach. Hell, I'm 55. I got a long way to go. Y'all going to have to deal with me for a while. I got a long way to go. I'm just getting going. I'm just now good enough to be a head coach.
All right, first off, I need an accent. I need to go back to Oklahoma and go into the basement and hang out with family for a couple of months and then come back. I swear, if you got an accent, if you're from the South, if you're from overseas, if you've got a sweet accent, you can get away with more. All right, so here's what I think about Dabo. One, why didn't Alabama hire him instead of Kalen DeBoer? I mean, he freaking played at Alabama for crying out loud, and he loves the Tide. Probably should have made an effort to bring that guy in. He might have done it. All right, so here's where I come out on Dabo Swinney. He's right. The expectations are way out of whack. He has been and remains one of the best coaches in college football and runs one of the most successful programs in college football. Now, the program over the last 3 to 4 years has not been the same as it was 10 years ago, but their track record is nothing but wins and success. It's impressive. So the issue I have with Dabo is this. Yes, you are successful. The idea of getting rid of you is insane. And the worst season you've had in 14 years is 9 wins. And he made the point, what AD wouldn't sign up for that? Here's what Dabo's got to understand. One, the more you win, the higher the expectations are. Two, I think what people have an issue with when it comes to Dabo is his unwillingness to embrace the new age of college football, meaning you have the transfer portal, you have NIL, you need to embrace the new age so that you can continue to build your program up. Hit the portal when needed, continue to recruit, and don't be afraid to pay players. You've got the money and the resources to make it happen. But again, when you don't invest, like Dan Lanning was talking about, to the level that you need to, you're going to fall behind. That's why they lose to teams like LSU or Georgia Tech. And now they're up against it in the conference this year because I think the eventual ACC champion is going to be Miami or Florida State. Two teams that were ultra aggressive in the portal. And so I think that's what the rub is. It's like, Dabo, we know you're a great coach and we know you've had a track record of nothing but success. But the recent trends would indicate that you need to get with it on the new age of college football. And Dabo's not coaching at Oregon State or Oklahoma State. Clemson has got money, and they've got the ability to compete at a high level. I still think Alabama's insane for not at least investigating the idea that Dabo might want to be head coach. If they don't want me, they can get rid of me. That's when, when you've got like some FU money, you can say things like that.
If they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. To win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we're a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last, always has been, always will be. And I would just say if you give up on us if you don't believe in us because we've lost 2 games down to the last straight and you didn't believe in us anyway, so it don't matter. You wasn't all in anyway. If you're all in, you burn the ships, man. There ain't no exit strategy. Like, you're freaking all in. And hey, listen, I mean, Clemson's tired of winning. They send me on my way, but I'm gonna go somewhere else and coach. I ain't going to the beach. Hell, I'm 55. I got a long way to go. Y'all gonna have to deal with me for a while. I got a long way to go. I'm just getting going. I'm just now good enough to be a head coach.
You know what's great about coaches? The guys at the highest level, they act like they don't pay attention to the media. They hear everything, and they read everything. And they do have long memories. They have memory like an elephant, for crying out loud. So there's Dabo. Hey, Dabo, just embrace the way the game is played now, and your fan base will calm down. But when you lose to Georgia Tech and you look inept on offense, they have a good reason to be upset. And by the way, your offense looked like garbage against LSU too. What do you think they're going to do, celebrate you? Hey, don't worry, guys. We lost 2 games here, but, man, he's had a great track record of success. That's not the way fans operate. They just want to know that you're going to be aggressive and utilize all tools to win. All right, Jeff Schwartz at 4:20 and Mike Parker at 5:20 coming up on the Rip City Drive. Hey, what's going on? It's now 4 o'clock. Chad here. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. Well, we got a lot of good things going on, including the Mariners who are on fire. They've won 10 straight, and they start the day a half game in front of Houston in the AL West. They're going to meet the Royals coming up at 4:40. Bryce Miller is going to be on the bump for Seattle. And then coming up this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the series in Houston against the Astros. From the NFL, the 49ers say Brock Purdy could return Sunday. The 49ers are going to host the Cards as Arizona looks to move to 3-0 to start the year. At noon, pregame starts at 10 on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KX. You can watch it. Off will be at noon. Pregame starts at 10 on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KX. You can watch it on Big Ten Network. Coming up at 4:20, Jeff Schwartz, former Duck, going to join the show. He works with Bino at Fox Sports Radio. And then the voice of the Beavs, Mike Parker. Doc is going to stop by at 5:20. More Rip City Drive coming at you right now. All right, Rip City Drive, Jeff Schwartz at 4:20. We'll talk with Mike Parker at 5:20. And I'm very happy to welcome in studio for the first time from Parkinson's Resource Center of Oregon. It's Melissa Greer, who is the executive director. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
It's great to have you in.
Good to be here. Thank you so much.
All right, so you just told me that you've now been with the Parkinson's Resource Center now for 10 years. Congratulations. That's a long time in today's world to be with an organization for 10 plus years.
Yeah. I kind of started just, loving the organization, but then you fall in love with the people, so it's easy to be around for this long.
Yeah, I think most of us have either a friend or a family member. We've all been impacted by Parkinson's. My neighbor, Mike Gwinnett, who is a great man. I grew up around him and have known him for a long time. He's got Parkinson's, and so I've seen him struggle over the course of time as he continues to battle it and so forth. But why don't we start for this? Because I think the hardest part for people to get involved or donate and to get the resources you need, I think a lot of times people, they have a hard time understanding what certain diseases are, right? Mm-hmm. So why don't you give me a breakdown of what Parkinson's is exactly?
Yeah, so Parkinson's disease is a progressive and chronic neurological condition. And so it affects movement and so much more. But some of the hallmark symptoms that people see are the tremor, the rigidity, which is the stiffness in muscles, the bradykinesia, which is a slow movement, and then also the postural instability, which really is kind of makes that maintaining balance difficult. But Parkinson's is a complex disease, and I often say it's kind of like an iceberg. So you see a little bit of that tip of the iceberg sticking out of the water, and that's really kind of what people are seeing. They're seeing those slow movements or maybe that freezing, but there's so much more beneath the water, and that's really where it becomes a challenge for people with Parkinson's. Some of those non-motor symptoms are sleep issues, fatigue, pain, but stuff like depression and anxiety as well, and loss of senses. So loss of sense of smell, sense of taste. So again, it's a complex disease, and it just looks different between individuals. So we also call it a snowflake disease, and it doesn't look the same on anybody.
Yeah, that's what makes it tough. Now, the depression, is that something that the disease itself is causing, or is that a result of people learning to deal with the disease that are experiencing depression for the changes in their life?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. So when they get that first diagnosis, I think that depression can come because their future looks different now. But then the depression is definitely part of the disease as well as anxiety.
How are things coming along in the research department? Finding cures, finding different treatments to help people. What type of progress is being made?
We are non-medical, but I will do my best.
Okay.
We usually leave that up to the OHSU or the Michael J. Fox Foundation to deal with some of that research. But the disease, there's a lot of things coming out. I was just telling someone recently that when I first started, we used to use the language that exercise might slow down the progression of the disease. Now we use the language as exercise is the only thing that will slow the progression. So really, there is no cure at this time. It is just treatment management and lifestyle. The same medication has been used since the 60s. However, there's been great advancements such as deep brain stimulation and other advancements in the treatment of the disease. But again, exercise and lifestyle.
Yeah, exercise and lifestyle is critical. My best friend and also my workout partner, he owns and operates a strength training facility in downtown Portland. One of his clients, his name is Kelly. He is suffering from Parkinson's, but he approaches the exercise end of things, nutrition, exercise, and the way that he carries on day to day with his lifestyle with that type of an approach. And I was talking to him about it. And he said the activity, the exercise has been great for him. And then he also mentioned he's part of a Parkinson's support group where he meets with multiple other people who have Parkinson's, and they're there to offer ideas or support to help them walk through the process, because you have different individuals, some who have been dealing with it for years, some who are just have been diagnosed. And so he said it's nice to have that type of support where you can communicate with someone who understands what you're going through exactly.
Absolutely. And I love that. So that's actually how our organization got started, is over 4 decades now. It started with a group of people kind of coming together with that shared diagnosis to offer support, to offer the information and just share. So that's great to hear. I love that. We also have a peer-to-peer program, which has been a real, I think, great program as well, to have that connection, that one-on-one peer connection.
So that is how it started then, a group of people getting together. And then explain that process a little bit. How did it go from that to becoming what Parkinson's Resource Center is today?
Oh, gosh. Well, that is 40 years of just growth. So now we have an office in Beaverton that we provide exercise, ping pong, education, and we do have over 60 support groups throughout Oregon and Southwest Washington. We also have an office in Bend and Eugene. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, the disease is not slowing down, and neither are we in providing those services.
Do they know, are certain people more predisposed? Are there certain things that cause it? Like what have you learned in that department?
Oh, gosh. There's a really amazing book that just came out recently within the last month, and it's called the Parkinson's Program, and it was written by Dr. Ray Dorsey and Dr. Michael Oken. And they really talk about that this is, there's many factors that contribute. Mostly there's the environmental factors, the environmental herbicides, pesticides, genetics, and just the fact that the population is aging. So the risk of Parkinson's disease increases as the population ages, and baby boomers, I think the last baby boomer turned 65 in year 2030. Wow. So we're seeing just an incredible rise in Parkinson's disease.
We're talking with Melissa Greer here on the Rip City Drive. She is with the Parkinson's Resource Center here in Oregon. And I think one of the big messages you wanted to communicate today, and I think this is important, is that you're not alone, right? There are people and there's a community where you provide support. So walk me through what the Parkinson's Resource Center will do. Like, let's say I get diagnosed and I come to communicate with you. Like, what are the steps that you work with people on to help them through that process, to help them understand they're not alone?
Yeah, so we have our helpline. And so I'd say the first, you get a diagnosis of Parkinson's disease, and you might call us. We get people calling us the next day of their diagnosis or weeks later. And we're local and we're personal and we're direct. So you're going to talk to one of us, and we're really going to walk you through. I think our approach is quite different among us. My approach is that I try to customize it and try to customize it to the person. So the diagnosis alone is overwhelming, and the amount of support and education and services I provide can be overwhelming as well. So I like to take it a step at a time.
Yeah.
So I like to make sure that, do they have an exercise program? Are they seeing a physical therapist? What are the things that are important to them? Are they in an area of where there is a local support group, or is there a support group that they might want to try that's a virtual support group? So it's really just kind of, we take that as like a customized approach, and get people involved in that way.
Are there any challenges with people and their health insurance in terms of what is provided, what's not, what's covered? Like, is there any issues like that?
Yes, but fortunately, we don't have to deal with any of that.
That's
so
great.
we say that we bridge the gap between wellness and medical care. So we're there. All of our services are free of charge. And if you're local and you can come into one of our offices, I would say that that's the best way to kind of see the community. Particularly in Beaverton today, we even had a drumming and dance for PD group. So if you came in today, you would have heard that drumming, and it's very
nice.
lively. And we're pretty lucky to have a space like that.
How much does it help the cause and the awareness when you have a big name like Michael J. Fox, who is really, I admire his willingness to be front and center and deal with the disease head on. How much does that help when you have a name that people can attach to it in terms of bringing awareness?
I think that what he has done has been quite amazing. There is so much awareness because of his name and the work that his foundation has done. And we have even worked with them in particular, went to Washington, D.C. We sent a pro employee to Washington, D.C. with the Michael J. Fox Foundation and kind of working and doing some talking to some senators and House representatives with Michael J. Fox. I'd say that it's helpful that people have seen someone like Michael J. Fox, but we really, anybody that's being compared, we just kind of bring back that snowflake. It's different from everybody. And he was very young when he was diagnosed. He was 29. So.
All right. Can you tell me about your biggest fundraiser? I think you mentioned it. It's called Soul Support.
Soul Support. Yes. Soul Support.
S-O-L-E.
Yes. Not like the shoe, but like the shoe, not the, soul. Yes. Soul Support for Parkinson's benefits Parkinson's Resources of Oregon. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year. And goal is $400,000, and that's over 4 walks in 3 weeks. So this is a busy time for us. But it's not only a fundraiser, it's really time for individuals, families, and teams to come together and create that kind of powerful opportunity to raise awareness and support those living with Parkinson's disease.
All right. Can you tell me about the big walks you have coming up in October?
So we have one in October, that's Vancouver, and that's October 5th. But the first one kicks off, it's exciting. It's this weekend in Portland, September 20th. It's a Saturday. The walk starts, check-in is at 12, and the walk starts at 1:30, and it's at the Rose Quarter Commons. So we're kicking it off big. Portland is our biggest one. That goal is $225,000. So we start big, and then we also have 2 walks next weekend in Eugene and Bend as well.
Okay, if I want to participate in the walk, what is the process for me to get registered? Can I just show up at the Rose Quarter? Do I go online? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, so I'd say now, because we have a couple days left, donations are still coming in. People are still fundraising. So go to soulsupport.org, register. You can start a team. You can walk as an individual. You can also come day of, and we can get you checked in. It is a fundraiser, but it's really about just that fun.
Yeah. And then where's the location for the walk October 5th in Vancouver?
I love that you asked that. That's Clark College in Vancouver on October 5th.
Both locations easy to find. Rose Quarter, we all know where that's at. Clark College, if you're coming from the Portland area, it's just straight over the I-5 and you take the Mill Plain exit. Boom, you're right there.
Right there. And it's easy, and it's a beautiful little walk.
What other type of help or support, how can people get involved aside from the walks?
Oh, so our support groups, majority of our support groups are peer-led. So that is, I'd say, where a lot of our volunteers come from, is we have an amazing group of volunteers that are support group facilitators, but also our board members, and people volunteer during our walk season as well. Like I mentioned, we have an office, so we're always looking for helpers to come in and maybe stamp some envelopes. So if you're looking for any opportunity to get connected, I would say come visit us at our walks and we'll get you connected.
All right, the biggest fundraiser, Soul Support. They've got the big Portland walk coming up this Saturday. It's going to be right there at the Rose Quarter, and it kicks off at noon, you said?
Check-in is at noon. There'll be a band. There's face painters, so it's fun for everybody. Some freezy treats.
And the weather's going to be nice. I checked the extended forecast. Saturday's looking good.
It is, yeah. And it's a 1K or 5K, so it's really accessible for any age and any ability.
What's been the response from those suffering from Parkinson's with these events?
Oh, it's lovely. Because sometimes they go to support groups and a caregiver might come with them. But this is an opportunity of where they can bring their kids, their nieces, their nephews, their grandkids. This is really, if you want to know about Pro, you come to the walk, Soul Support Walks.
All right. Melissa Greer, who is with Parkinson's Resource Center here in Oregon. Before I let you go, anything else you want to get out to the people?
I think The last little message I just want to leave people is that there is hope, and that you're not alone. While there's no cure for Parkinson's, I think with proper treatment and as we talked about, a healthy lifestyle, people can still live a fulfilling life. And so our job is to help them see that there is a supportive community that are there to walk alongside them.
Well, Melissa, I appreciate you coming in. Melissa Greer, who is the executive director of the Parkinson's Resource Center here in Oregon. We got to continue to spread the message. So if you ever need to use the show to get a message out to anyone here in town, you're always welcome.
Oh, thank you.
There
I'll
go.
be back.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive. Big thanks to Melissa. Parkinson's 5K, so get involved. Parkinson's Resource Center of Oregon. Jeff Schwartz going to join us next. So get involved. Parkinson's Resource Center of Oregon. Jeff Schwartz going to join us next. The Rip City Drive continues here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, our next guest, he played his college ball at the University of Oregon, and he went on to play nearly 10 years in the NFL, and now is part of Fox Sports Radio. It's my pleasure to welcome Jeff Schwartz to the Rip City Drive. Jeff, I've been waiting to talk to you for a long time. This is awesome, man. Thanks for your time.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I talked to Brian Noe. He's going to come on the show tomorrow. He's a good friend of mine, and he wanted me to tell you what's up. But I love hearing you and Noe together, and you guys talking ball, man. It's the best.
We were just texting about WNBA wagers like 3 minutes ago. So that's we I know we joke about it on the radio, but we actually do bet WNBA. It's wild because it drives you crazy. But yeah, we do wager on that sport.
Well, hey, if you can find anything to give you an edge over the house, why not pursue that direction, right, Jeff?
I agree. It's not always the edge I think I'm getting, but it's just a sport where like they just won't score for many minutes. It's wild, man. It's nothing like any other basketball I ever watched.
That's awesome. Jeff Schwartz, former Oregon Duck, is with us here on the program. I want to start out with this. I really believe going into the year that Oregon had a chance to be better than last year's squad. I've been really impressed with what I'm seeing at the line of scrimmage with their 2 tackles they brought in through the portal and the defensive line, especially a defensive tackle. What are your thoughts on the line of scrimmage play early in the season thus far for the Ducks?
Well, obviously, it's much better than how we started last year, right? There were some injuries last year, and it just wasn't good. I think that to me, that the biggest thing I see is depth. The first Montana State game, we lost Pregnon, right, and then they moved over the right guard to left guard. They brought in a new right guard. He got hurt. Bedford came in, who it's great to have a 6th-year guy as your basically third-string guard, and the tackles have played well. Harkey's been number 71's been much better than I thought he would be. And then Isaiah World is a player I thought. So I think they just started from a much better base than last year in that depth. And look, it takes time. It's year 4, man. Like, year 1's kind of a wash, and then you start developing these guys. And that's basically year 3 of a lot of these guys' development. And this is where you want to see a lot of that success pay off. So, really happy for what they've done and what Terry's done on that side of the ball. And then on the defensive line, we know the edge rushers are good, right?
Yes.
And I think it's now a matter of finding some sort of consistency inside. Washington's done a great job so far, but we need a couple other guys, I think, to really step up just in their strength. And I'm a tad concerned about, the Penn State offensive line and maybe what some of these other offensive lines can do, but it's just been better across the board.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, that Penn State game is going to be terrific. And really, don't you think we'll learn everything we need to know about the line of scrimmage play in that game? Because we know Penn State, they always have guys who can rush the passer, but their offensive line, considered by most to be the best in college football this year, they've got a lot of experience back. But I think that's going to tell us a lot. And I'm just wondering if they hold up early in that game and keep it close going into the second half, then I would think the pressure would turn on James Franklin and his squad, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, it's college football is a lot like the NFL now, where week 5 game might not be indicative of how you're playing in week 14. College football used to not be that way, right? Because it's just a shorter season. And, now you're preparing for a long playoff. So I would argue that it's a good barometer of where Oregon's at, but it doesn't mean it doesn't, mean they're going to end up somewhere by the playoff because of how they play in that game. It's going to be a tough atmosphere, tough environment. And I think what's really important, and I'll start talking about this a lot more next week, is that, Penn State's off a bye. They're off this week. And I really think if Oregon's going to win, it's going to have to play out like Georgia-Tennessee, where Tennessee comes out early, and they've been waiting for that game forever, right? For a year now to play Georgia. And they came out and they had their best stuff early on. And Georgia weathered the storm, played their football, and came back and won. And it does feel like off a bye, Penn State's going to have some really good stuff for us. And it's a matter of making adjustments and just not letting the game get away too early and staying close. And then obviously, third and fourth quarter, I love our coaching staff and the way we play in those games.
There's no doubt. Jeff Schwartz, Fox Sports Radio, former Oregon Duck, nearly 10 years in the NFL here on the Rip City Drive. Dante Moore has been impressive thus far. Again, the competition, not what it's going to be like against Penn State, but I like his dynamic play and the way he's been able to push the ball downfield. I think in a lot of ways he brings a different element than what we saw with Dylan Gabriel and Bo Nix. What are your thoughts on Dante Moore thus far?
Yeah, he's just been really good. It's so funny, man. We talked a lot about previewing the season, right? And I thought people were a little bit too harsh on his assessment of him after his freshman year at UCLA.
Yeah.
It's really hard to play as a true freshman. He played a lot of road games, and we knew he had the arm talent. And he went to a place where they put two different quarterbacks, different styles of quarterbacks in the Heisman discussion, Dylan Gabriel and Bo Nix. And so it just never made sense to me that people sort of wrote him off. He's always had this capability, just he hadn't been in the right place to get out of him. And now, look, to me, it's really not even the arm man, it's the pocket movement. He's really, really good in the pocket. And he steps up really well. He understands where pressure's at. He understands where his options are. If he runs out of the pocket, he's not really looking to run, which I love. He can run. He's looking to throw the ball down the field, man. And so it's been really, really awesome to see him play so far this season.
No doubt. All right, I want to ask you about Oregon State. I never thought I'd see a day in my life where Oregon would be a 35-point favorite in the Civil War, but that's where we're at. A lot of Beaver fans are frustrated. Trent Bray, of course, taking over for Jonathan Smith, and they're trying to rebuild that program. I don't know if you have an answer, Jeff, but, how do they solve this issue, this great divide in college football where you have the teams at the top so far ahead of everybody else in the game? Is there any way to fix it, or is this just going to be a situation where the rich will continue to get richer? What's your take on the way things are set up right now?
Yeah, I really don't think it's going to change very much. It's just there's no one in charge, right? There's no way that there's going to be much. I know people are hoping Congress does, but the courts have routinely given wins to the players, right?
Yes,
and
every
not the
time.
institutions. And so I don't really know, even if there's a law, there's a lot of state laws, right? Obviously, Oregon has their own state laws. You put a federal law in place, I'm sure there'll be lawsuits and trying to figure out who has actual jurisdiction. And it does feel like we are at the point where it's a haves and have-nots. As far as Oregon State, look, I just think that you have to it's not their fault, right? They didn't do anything wrong in Washington State, but you just have to tailor your program to what you're able to do at the moment. And I think they're trying their best. They got good portal quarterback, hasn't really panned out quite yet. Defensively it's been rough, but they just got to target certain players in the portal and earmark some money, to get these guys to come for a couple of years. It's really a terrible spot to be in. I've known coaches on that staff, and they're just it's a situation where it's just very hard to win. And I feel bad that none of the fault of the players and the coaches, just the situation they're in stinks.
All right, early in the season, Jeff, who's been the most impressive team in college football to you? Is it Oregon? Is it Miami? Is it Ohio State? Like, who's jumped out at you as like, hey, I like the way they're playing, and we're almost a quarter of the way through the season?
To me, it's Miami. What I like about Miami is, and they really parallel with Oregon, is that Mario has really spent a lot of time in recruiting, building up the trenches.
Yeah.
And it's really paid dividends. You just can't take shortcuts at that position. And I know Oregon's playing, basically three transfer guys. I get it. But they got young guys, waiting to go immediately if they need to. I think next year, I imagine they take less transfers, but it's just, you have to have those high school recruits that really learn under your system, get stronger, get bigger, get faster. And so I think it's Miami. You add Carson Beck in there. You added some of the young field guys. They went and got a bunch of guys in the portal for secondary, and it's a really good team that plays some really good football.
I want to play something for you. I'm sure you saw it. It was fascinating, but Dabo Swinney, head coach at Clemson, under a lot of fire right now because his team's off to a 1-2 start with losses to LSU and Georgia Tech, and he was looking for a question to set him up on his answer, and this is a portion of what he said last night in defense of his work with the program.
If they want me gone, if they tired of winning, they can send me on their way because that's all we've done is win. So if they tired of winning, we've won this league 8 out of the last 10 years. Is that not good? I'm just asking. Is that good? I don't know if that's good or not. To win your league 8 out of 10 years, to go to the playoffs 7 out of 10 years, to be in 4 national championships, win it twice. Yeah, we a little down right now. Take your shots, but I got a long memory in case y'all don't know. We'll be all right. We'll bounce back. This is a program built to last, always has been, always will be.
All right, there's a portion of what Dabo had to say. Like, what's your reaction to that? Because you understand coach speak better than I do. But what are your thoughts on Clemson? Off to a bad start, but Dabo saying, hey, the worst year we've had in 14 seasons is 9 wins. What's your take, Jeff?
He was waiting for someone to ask him something remotely close to that.
Yes.
I listened to his comments in full. Unfortunately, this is a sport of impatience. I mean, all sports are impatient.
Yes.
And it's a lot of what have you done for me now? And it's a lot of, are we winning in the moment? And I think the thing with Clemson is that they were so good for so long, and that Dabo basically, and he did a little bit this season, but he decided that we're not going to we're not going to adapt and go to the portal. And he did a little bit more this year, which makes it a little bit different. But I think people were just like, dude, like the sport has changed. You got to change with the sport. And he hadn't. And now he did this year. Obviously hasn't worked out quite the way they wanted it to. But I think a lot of the angst at Clemson was more just like, buddy, like you just participate in the model, the winning model now. And he had refused to do it. And so, look, I know that I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt, but I think for a lot of us, we see the program going in the other direction. And again, they're going to win a lot of games. They're playing the ACC, but it feels like they could be even better and kind of get back to where they are, but it's just not working out right now.
Hey, Jeff, we've seen some great redemption stories lately in the NFL with quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield is one of the probably a top 10 quarterback right now, getting it done with Tampa Bay. We've seen Geno Smith get life, Sam Darnold. These guys that started out with poor franchises now getting a chance of a rebirth, which is nice. And the latest is Daniel Jones, who has been unbelievable through 2 weeks. I mean, what are your thoughts on what you're seeing from the Colts, and how have they been able to put Daniel Jones in a position where he's had great success coming off a bad run with the Giants?
Yeah, well, one thing that they've done is important is they have a good play caller. And Shane Steichen, I think, has just done a really good job of calling what works for Daniel Jones and making sure that the offense built around his strong suit. Now, I don't think it's going to last. I think we know what Jones is at this point. If you are winning in games and you're staying ahead of the chains and you're running the ball well, which they did last week with Jonathan Taylor, they had like 130 yards. You're going to win. You're going to win a lot of games. If you keep Daniel Jones out of those situations, he can lose those third down situations. You're going to win more games than not, I think. But the question, they're on the road this weekend. They're playing Tennessee. I get it. They're playing a bad team, but you start getting those third and longs, man. Like that's not where you want to be. So when it's on schedule, I think Jones can play well in this offense. But if you get off sort of your schedule, I think we'll see what we know of Daniel Jones. Look, we've enough film on him. Like we know what he is. Geno's interesting because I think Geno was really, really good his first year. Just hasn't been that same first year in Seattle. Hasn't been the same guy since. We still look at him in that first couple of months and that mold. And Baker just, man, he went to a great spot, right? He gets a Hall of Fame wide receiver Mike Evans plus 2 or 3 other guys. And they just drafted Ibuka, good offensive line, good running backs. Like he went to a place that not a lot of quarterbacks get that when they go somewhere in free agency.
What's that like in the huddle? We saw it on Monday night with Baker, like a big scramble run on 4th down to set the team up in good position. Like, what does that do when your quarterback's making plays like that and he steps in the huddle? What does that do for the offensive line?
Well, you kind of feel invincible, man. Like and you start feeling, the confidence sort of build and build and build in your offense, and you can feel the defense start getting really annoyed and frustrated by what's happening, and they're tired because it's a 2-minute drill and whatnot. So I think to me, it gives your offense like this confidence that no matter what happens, when the ball is snapped, we're going to make plays to win.
All right, final thought. You put out this tweet this morning, and you're a man after my own heart. This is how much of a pro Jeff Schwartz is. 8:48 a.m. parked car, 8:56 through security, 9:07 board plane, pending takeoff at 9:42. I don't like showing up 2 hours early. I love having my pre-check to be able to get through the line quickly. That is a pro move, Jeff Schwartz. Money.
Well, I travel every Wednesday to New York. I'm in New York City right now, and so I valet my car. I live in Charlotte, and that's how long it takes. There's no really, 9 o'clock in the morning. TSA pre-checks mostly empty on a Wednesday, and so I was able to. I got, and went and took a pee and went to get a bottle of water and went right to the play, man. And we also don't check bags. We never check bags. Wherever we go, it doesn't matter how long we go, we're not checking the bag. We can do laundry. We're just not checking the bag. So part of that is like I just don't check a bag. So I just handle my business. But I've done it. I did it every Wednesday from basically middle of August till end of December. So I have a pretty good idea of what my trip is going to look like.
It's awesome, man. It's a pro move. I tell you what, Jeff, I've always been a big fan. I love your work. Keep being you. I love the work you've done with Jewish athletes. I just appreciate you. So thank you for your time, man. It's awesome. Thank you. Enjoy the games.
Thank you, man. Have a good night. Have a good weekend.
You got it. There's Jeff Schwartz talking football, and this guy, a degenerate like Bino, betting on WNBA games. He's like, yeah, they go through long stretches without scoring. I know. I've gone through long stretches without scoring, too. Got to work on my jumper. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Rip City Drive, Mike Parker. Which Mike Parker are we going to get today? The calm and gentle Mike Parker or the Mike Parker that I prefer? That's always a big question for me.
Oh, my goodness. This is a waste of humanity's time.
Yeah.
That ball's foul, Jim.
By 10 feet.
Yeah, I mean, that ball, what?
By 10.
Are they are Cincinnati asking for that to be looked at? Is that the deal? Terrible call. And then is he horse collared at the 8? Yes. Travis, it's a good question. It's an important question. And I believe we're moving towards an answer, closure to that question and that issue. Oh, my goodness. This is a waste of humanity's time.
The one and only Mike Parker going to join us coming up at 5:20. Big thanks to Jeff Schwartz. He's awesome. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Yeah, I'm telling you, Jeff Schwartz. Yeah, I'm telling you, Jeff Schwartz is a man after my own heart. I have mastered the art of travel. And I'm the same way. I do not check a suitcase. The only thing I'll check when necessary are my golf clubs. But I got to be honest with you, I hate going through that whole process. Now, I do love, if I have to check my clubs, I always go with SkyCap. It's the only way to do it. Because what I don't like now, if you go through the whole cattle call once you get inside the airport to check your bag, then you got to print off the label, and somehow they want you to peel the thing off and then put it on yourself. I have no idea how to tape the two sides together. Next thing you know, they're going to have us trying to fly our own plane to get us to where we need to go. It's like, hey, can you just put this label on for me? So anyways, I don't deal with that nonsense. I go SkyCap. But what do I care? Here's $10. You take care of my bag, and bingo, bango, bongo, it's done. So I go SkyCap, and when it's not open, I get very bitter. Love SkyCap. But I do not check bags. I have learned and perfected the art of packing so I can fit multiple items in my duffel bag. I've got my backpack, and then boom, I'm set. You walk into the airport, and I do the same thing at PDX. I drive up to level 4. That's my parking level. I park on the end so I know exactly where to find my car. I take the little walking path across. I go down. I go straight through security. If you do not have pre-check, you should get pre-check. It's the best $85 I spend every 5 years. You don't have to wait in line. So I walk across the little pathway. I go down. I go through security. It takes like 5 minutes to get through on the pre-check. And then I walk all the way out to E11, which seems to be where my plane's at every time. And that's like a long walk. So if you need to add like 10 miles of walking to your day to get your steps in, walk from the entrance into the airport all the way out to E11. They've got some type of maze you got to go on now. It takes forever to get out there. That's the only thing about the trip to the airport I don't like is that long walk. And then I walk down. I get to the Stumptown little coffee booth. I get my Americano. I'm dialed. And Jeff Schwartz is the same way. Showing up 2 hours before when you don't need to check a bag is absurd if you have pre-check. If you don't, you got to go through the regular line. That's a different ballgame. So there you have it. Go through the process. I went down. I had to do a little background check. And then once you pass that, assuming you pass that, I did, then you'll get a little email with your KTN, known traveler number, KTN. And then you just plug that into your profile on whichever airline you use. And then every time you book a ticket, boom, pre-check, pre-check, pre-check. It's the only way to do it. Love that. I just like simplifying matters. Not checking bags, not worrying about this, having my system down. Now, the only thing that I get stuck with sometimes is if I forget and leave like a bottle of water. You know, when you go through security, they'll pull that from you because you can only have so much of liquids or whatever. But, yeah, I've got the system down. Jeff Schwartz does, too. Yeah, I like simplifying matters. I've found with time that getting rid of junk that I don't need, keeping things simple, having systems for how you do this or you do that, it just makes life easier. And I enjoy that a lot. Now, the one thing I do like, and I noticed that this past weekend when I was down in Tempe, like it's nice now when you buy electronic tickets for sporting events that they are on your phone. I just drop them in the Google Wallet and then boom, they're right there. And if you're in a bad Wi-Fi area, you can still get to the Google Wallet. The Google Wallet's very helpful. But I just wish that I had a ticket stub. There's something nice about having a ticket stub to remember different events you go to. And I used to have a collage because I had all these ticket stubs, and it's just nice to have that little memory. My buddy Steve, when he gets a ticket stub or when he used to get ticket stubs, would write the score of the game and the attendance, you know, just as something to remember, which is kind of cool. But we just don't have that anymore. It's different ball game, different world out there with the electronic tickets. But it is nice because the tickets that were separate, like paper tickets, you had to remember to get the tickets. Did you remember the tickets? Do you have them with you? But now everyone's got their phone with them at all times, so you don't have to worry about that. So there you go. Mike Parker, voice of the Beavs, is going to join us coming up at 5:20. Always enjoy talking to Mike Parker.
We'll get this tailgate going early with a Go Beavs. Very good. Very good.
Oh, he's such a great man. I love Mike Parker. He does a great job. I love Jim Wilson. I reached out to Jim. He's always nice and very considerate, but he told me he did not have time. I didn't ask him what he was doing. If Jim Wilson tells me he does not have time to join me, that means Jim Wilson does not have time to join me. And why would Jim Wilson want to waste time with me? I was so happy to talk to Jeff Schwartz. I've been wanting to talk to him for a long time, but he does a terrific job. And Brian Noe is going to join the show tomorrow, getting ready for another big weekend. I'm anxious to see if Washington State can bounce back after that horrendous performance at North Texas. I'm anxious to see if Washington State can bounce back after that horrendous performance at North Texas. It would be fun if Washington lost. And then what I do is I enjoy other people's misery. So, like when Washington is doing something that's unfortunate, I go straight to Softy's Twitter just to see what his reaction is in real time. Like, I enjoy that. So it would be fun to see Washington State get over. Maybe they shouldn't turn it over 5 times this week. It's amazing how turnovers can be the great neutralizer. Everything's good. You're playing good football. You turn over a few times. The game gets out of hand. You're done. All right, 503-248-0620. That is the telephone number to reach me direct. You can podcast and listen live via our free iHeartRadio app. And, of course, you can go on YouTube anytime, youtube.com. Pull up our homepage, Rip City Radio 620. And you can follow the station and shows, any of our local shows that we stream right there. All right, we'll keep things rolling. Mike Parker talking Civil War at 520. All right, what's up, my friends? It's now 5 o'clock. Chad here. We'll start by taking a look at the Major League scoreboard. The Mariners have won 10 straight games going into today's action with the big series coming up in Houston against the Astros. And the Astros going into today's action with the big series coming up in Houston against the Astros this weekend on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Right now, top of the second in KC. The Royals on top of the Mariners by a score of 3-0. The Civil War coming up on Saturday, Oregon and Oregon State. 10 o'clock pregame on 1190 KX. The kickoff at noon. It can be seen on the Big Ten Network. Oregon favored by 35. We'll talk with the voice of the Beavs, Mike Parker. He's going to join the show coming up at 5:20. Also from the NFL, the 49ers say Brock Purdy could return to action Sunday when the 49ers host the Cards in an NFC West matchup. Yeah, this song here, It's Over by Boz Scaggs, one of my favorites. And it's less than 3 minutes. I think it's like 2:51 or 2:52 total time. It's like the theme song for every relationship in my life. It's over now. All right, we got to get to Jerry Jones. Mike Parker, the voice of the Beavs, is going to join us coming up at 5:20. I can't wait to talk to Doc and see what's cracking in his world as we get ready for another big game between Oregon and Oregon State. I love Mike Parker. In fact, I would say there's nothing about Mike Parker I don't love.
Terrible call! Overton front court to Thomas, and Isaiah bumped on the way up. Oh, and they're counting the basket. He's counting the basket.
I'm a shot.
Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
All right, so he's going to join us coming up at 5:20. Now, we got more from Jerry Jones. The Cowboys 1-1, coming off a victory over the Giants in a thriller down in Big D. And he talked a little bit about the defense just needing to adjust to the scheme.
As much as anything, it's buying into the scheme. You've got to handle your responsibilities. And you got to really do that all over the defense, whether it's in the back end or whether it's up on the front. You've got to do your responsibility. That's first and foremost. And then make that play if it's there. But the main thing is you can't just be there trying to make a play. You've got to have your responsibilities, make sure that's covered before you abandon that area and try to go out and make a play. You can't be a lone ranger out there. You got to be a part of a team. That's the hard part, getting it together so that everybody's doing their thing.
You can't be a lone ranger out there. That's Jerry Jones, owner of the Cowboys. Now, he was also asked what his definition of glory hole is. I did take a peek at Urban Dictionary. My guess is his definition may not be what some people think it is. But in case you were wondering, this is back in the day, Jerry talking about how he wants some more.
I think that's a part of leadership, is to have some of the guys that have gone before that have been disappointed to share it with everybody involved. For me, it's a reminder. I, too, have been here 23 years. And it is a reminder. I've been here when it was glory hole days, and I've been here when it wasn't. And so having said that, I want me some glory hole. So I have that perspective.
Yeah. We appreciate your perspective, Mr. Jones. Now, on his weekly hit on the Fan down in Dallas, he was asked his definition of glory hole. I have not heard this, so let's listen to it together.
Well, he knows it's an oil field term. Comes from out when you're in the business of drilling wells, and it's when you've basically made a big well, and mentally or physically picture just drilling a well, and all of a sudden having all the oil start coming out at once, going in the air, and that's when you've known you've hit a glory hole.
Jerry,
I'm not going the other place, guys. I'm not going too early in the morning.
All right, that's Jerry Jones. Now, someone needs to contact Urban Dictionary because they've got the definition wrong. It's an oil term, people. I mean, that's what I thought all along. And
That's not what it says on gloryhole.com.
I haven't been to that website. And remember, he struck it rich on one well. He was over his head in debt. And all of a sudden, he heard it start to howl, and it makes that certain noise, and it started to gush. He struck it rich and bought the Cowboys. It's an incredible story.
Well, he knows it's an oil field term. Comes from out when you're in the business of drilling wells, and it's when you've basically made a big well, and mentally or physically picture just drilling a well, and all of a sudden having all the oil start coming out at once, going in the air, and that's when you've known you've hit a glory hole.
Jerry,
I'm not going the other place, guy. I'm not going with you. Too early in the morning.
Dude, do you understand how great that is? He is a billionaire. He owns the most valuable franchise in sport. And he does a weekly radio hit, and he talks about glory hole. Like, that is just mind-boggling to me. And I love it. I'm here for it. I want more owners speaking publicly like that. It's just amazing to me. And he is a one of a kind. You know, you can live, you run into certain people, you're like, okay, I haven't met someone like that. That person, he or she is a unique. And I love meeting a unique, someone I've never met before. Jerry Jones is a unique. Now, he's crazy. Might not always make the best decision when it comes to his football team, but he entertains. That is incredible. Jerry Jones. Easy, man. Easy.
I think that's a part of leadership, is to have some of the guys that have gone before that have been disappointed to share it with everybody involved. For me, it's a reminder. I, too, have been here 23 years. And it is a reminder. I've been here when it was glory hole days, and I've been here when it wasn't. And so having said that, I want me some glory hole. So I have that perspective.
It's incredible. I mean, that guy is a very rich and successful man and owns the Cowboys. And yet is doing stuff like that.
Well, he knows it's an oil field term. Comes from out when you're in the business of drilling wells, and it's when you've basically made a big well, and mentally or physically picture just drilling a well, and all of a sudden having all the oil start coming out at once, going in the air, and that's when you've known you've hit a glory hole.
Jerry,
I'm not going the other place, guy. I'm not going with you. Too early in the morning.
It's incredible. All right, there you go. That's Jerry. I appreciate his update. I appreciate his insight and educating the masses on that. It's incredible. I just can't believe it. Update right now, Mariners have bounced back. They now trail the Royals 3-2, bottom of the second in Kansas City. The Astros host the Rangers. That first pitch coming up here in a couple of minutes. So this is critical now. Can the Mariners somehow, some way get through the weekend? Can they win that series in Houston? That's really what it comes down to. Can they take care of business? And how about Cal Raleigh? Not one, but 2 homers last night. 56. I would have never guessed in a million years that Cal Raleigh would be the one to surpass Ken Griffey Jr. and set the all-time mark for homers in a season with the franchise. But that's what he's going to do. He's got 11 games left. He is tied with Griffey at 56. Griffey did it twice. And not only is he going to more than likely surpass Griffey, but he might hit 60 home runs. I mean, that is truly unreal. And he's right there in line for the MVP. I would give it to Raleigh, although Aaron Judge has a pretty strong case for MVP. But right now, I'd give it to Raleigh. Also, Shohei Ohtani, incredible. First player since Alex Rodriguez back in like 01-02 to have back-to-back seasons with 50 home runs. And last night was like classic Dodger baseball. Shohei gets the start, 5 innings of no-hit ball. Of course, he is pulled with about 67, 68 pitches, and the bullpen goes out to the mound and sets himself on fire, and the Dodgers lose another game. And they're up like 4-0 in that one. The bullpen instantly gave up 5 runs, and they were trailing as soon as they took Shohei out. The Dodgers are one of the big embarrassments on all baseball this year. When you spend that type of money and have those type of resources and have that type of roster, and yet you're struggling to win the division, that's a problem. They're not going to be the top seed. They're probably going to be the number 3 seed. They'll have enough to win the division, but I'm telling you right now, you know how this works in playoff baseball. When your pitching is a question mark, you done. We ain't going to do well in the postseason. That's why the Mariners have got a chance. If their pitchers pitch up to their capabilities, the Mariners have a chance to make a deep run, which is pretty cool. But the key for them is making sure that they don't screw it up for the next a few days and they win that series down in Houston and come out of that on top. And then they go back home to finish out the year, and then they can, secure the AL West. That's going to be key for them. But it's exciting to watch. I'm very thrilled. Cal Raleigh's awesome. What a story. And in a lot of ways, you could point to Cal Raleigh as the one who kind of lit the fire under the front office by speaking out. And then all of a sudden, Jerry DiPoto gets aggressive at the deadline this year. They go out and get Suarez. They get some arms, and they put themselves in a position to compete. You got to give credit. It's okay to criticize when your franchise does unthinkable things or refuses to do anything. But then when they do execute and they go out there and get it done, you got to applaud. And so I applaud the Mariners for being aggressive. I applaud them for not standing pat and putting themselves in a position to compete for a championship. It'd be great. So hopefully they can have success with the maneuvers they made. But right now, this is it. Tonight and tomorrow in Kansas City, and then 3 games in Houston against the Astros, the ultimate showdown. It's going to be awesome. I mean, it's everything you want in a game. And right now, bottom of the second in Kansas City with 2 outs. Royals on top of the M's 3-2. Okay, so we got the game coming up this weekend, Oregon and Oregon State. Ducks are to see how they're going to solve the issue, the great divide in college football right now. He doesn't see how they're going to solve the issue, the great divide in college football right now, because the courts have regularly ruled in favor of the players, meaning you can't limit their ability to earn when it comes to football or with their name, image, and likeness. I just don't see how they're going to be able to put a cap on it. So we'll see how it plays out. But Oregon State and Oregon right now are playing a different brand of football. And so regardless of result this weekend, the way I look at it for, Coach Bray is how does he keep the group together? How do they continue to compete? And what do they do with the rest of their season after you get through this rough stretch with Texas Tech and Oregon in back-to-back weeks? Mike Parker, the great voice of the Oregon State Beavers, is going to stop by next, and we'll get his thoughts here on the Rip City Drive, which is on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. Boy, Michael Shacker pulling out all the stops today. Little Bruce Hornsby. Big fan. All right, the game's coming up this week in Oregon and Oregon State. Civil War, 12 o'clock kick from Autzen. Pregame will start at 10 on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KX. I'm very happy to welcome my friend and the voice of your Oregon State Beavers, Mike Parker, back to the show. Doc, good afternoon.
Chad, it's good to be on with you. I'm glad that Shacker pulled out a little Bruce Hornsby out. I think I told you this before, but I had a friend who worked at Nordstrom in downtown Portland, and she said one day they were all there and Agog went in the entryway to Nordstrom downtown. There's Bruce Hornsby on the piano. He was going to be playing later that night, and there he was playing, and a crowd gathered. Had a little free concert at Nordstrom downtown. Those are the days, right, Chad?
Definitely the days. And you know what I love about certain musicians, Doc, is that Bruce Hornsby, I don't care what the song is, when I hear him stroking the keys on the piano, I know that sound. I'm like, that's Bruce Hornsby. Like, that's when I know you're legit, is when you have a signature sound that I can recognize with my ear right away.
Very distinctive, and the only two pianists I can distinguish one from the other. You're right about Hornsby, and the other would be, for me, Chico Marx of the Marx Brothers in all his films with his signature style. So those two, Chico Marx, Bruce Hornsby, kind of come to mind. It's good to be on with you, Chad. How are you?
Oh, it's so good. Oh, by the way, many people don't know this, but Herb Albert is going to be in Portland coming up here in a couple of months. Can you believe that?
You know, in saying that, I'm sorry to not know this, but if you would have told me, Herb, the late Herb Albert, we lost many years ago, I would have thought, yeah, you're right. I mean, I haven't heard of his name for a long, long time, but gosh, I liked him. But I've been liking him since the late '60s. So good. He actually is playing Portland soon.
He is. He's going to be at the Schnitz, and the problem is there's a Blazer game that night, so I might be sick and unable to work that night for obvious reasons. I'm just saying.
Well, I'm glad you can kind of feel those things coming on. So, man, good for you. I hope you get to see him. Now, that's also, obviously, a very distinctive sound in musical history.
There's no question about it. I want to talk to you about a lot of different things today, but first off, here's my read on the situation with Trent Bray and Oregon State. Now, I know there's a lot of people who are frustrated right now, but, I think when they hired him, they made the right call, Mike, at least through my eyes, because they were trying to keep it together and not lose everyone when Jonathan Smith left. And when you hire a guy, at least in my mind, who has no head coaching experience, you understand there's going to be a process for guys to learn, just like Chauncey Billups has learned on the job with the Trailblazers. And when he took over the program, it wasn't exactly in the best spot. So I just think that even though sports fans don't like to hear this, maybe a little patience right now to continue to let him build and grow as a coach might be the best approach. Like, what's your read on the situation?
And Chad, well, clearly that's what, Scott Barnes has indicated publicly, that's his belief and plan, what you're talking about, and that, Trent is the head coach now and go forward, and that the plan to rebuild the program and moving into the Pac-12 will be under his watch. And I know, believe me, I've seen every play this year. I know how tough it is. And it's not only, I think that the detractors would talk about, well, it's not only this year, but the way last year ended. I do think we need to remember what you just reminded us of about the situation the Beavers were in when he, in a very real sense, was a hero, kind of saying, I'm not getting on that plane to East Lansing. I'm staying. These are my guys. We're going to, the idea was that a lot of people told Trent, you stay, I'll stay. I'm not going. I'm not going to portal out of here. I believe in you. He's always had the trust and belief of his players, and he still does through the tough start the Beavers were in and the end of last year. He still has that. So we need to remind ourselves of that. He still has the locker room, and I'm around Trent enough to believe that and know he's a truth teller as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Nigel might say the same. Nigel Burton might say the same too, and others. In terms of what's going on at times. But so I trust him too, and I think Scott does. And I do think clearly in making the move to him, Scott and everybody else understood that a first-time head coach in that position, was going to take some time to grow into the role. I think what we may have maybe thought he got so quickly out of the gate at 4-1 last year, right? You're thinking, oh my gosh, this is great. But then injuries hit and quarterback play, which eventually left a lot to be desired after that 4-1 start. They didn't have enough going at the quarterback spot. They were injured all over the place. And the 4-1, ended up being a disappointing 5-7. And this year's start is what it is. It is disappointing. And the Fresno State game is the one that really galls. All of that said, he's still very young, as you pointed out, young in his head coaching career. And I still think is the right guy to lead the Beavers through right now where they are and where they're going in the new Pac-12.
It's funny, Mike, when he made those comments to Nigel Burton, I had just watched the first half, and I got to be honest with you, if I had watched my team hold a lead and then all of a sudden a bad snap resulted in a worm burner type of a kick that was scooped and scored, I probably would have said a couple of things inappropriate on television as well. I'm just being honest.
I know, Chad, and I know. And when I chuckle, you think it's funny? No. I don't think it's funny. I know that may sound a little bit like Colonel Jessup, and is there something funny here? No, it's tragic. It's terrible. Tom Cruise baiting Nicholson. No,
yes.
It's terrible. It's tragic.
Yeah.
All that may sound like that when I say it's not acceptable, and it is. And Trent knows that, and that's clearly been communicated to him. But that is sort of the perils of two things there. One is somebody still growing in the head coaching role and all of the duties that go along with it, and how intense and locked in he is as a coach during, in the battle itself. And the half just came to an end on that miserable note. And, so he has to deal with all of that. And I will say, as soon as he was done with Nigel, Ron Callan on radio, and you met, 1190 KEX, all of the listeners heard Trent on the exit interview not utter a thing like that. So he kind of, he got his shot out there, quickly composed himself, and maybe even caught himself, I'm not going to do that again, and he won't. But the two things, growing into a head coachly role and the whole idea of putting a microphone live in front of a head coach
yes,
at
of
halftime
course.
coming off the field.
What do you
We've heard
expect?
Trent's not alone in that kind of stuff.
Yeah. If you would have put a microphone in front of me right after the Denver Broncos got penalized on a missed 60-yarder, which resulted in a 45-yard game-winning field goal for the Colts, I probably wouldn't have been in a great mood right in that moment. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know, and I do think those that argue, and Trent is being well paid for being in the role that he's in, and he will grow in all of those areas, and I think he already is. I think that was a tough lesson for him, but I like the guy. Oh yeah, he's not one of those guys that's going to hold forth on long discourses about things, but he's direct. He's a truth teller. He's well respected by what really matters. He's well respected by his players, and that in the long run is what's really going to count here.
Yeah, I don't know how you looked at the schedule before the season began, but I really don't think all is lost right now, because I thought in my own mind coming out of the first four games based on the brutal schedule they had, I thought they would be 1-3. So I was disappointed with the Fresno loss. But the good news is after you play Oregon, there are opportunities on the schedule to where they can really bounce back and finish strong. And so I guess what I'm most anxious to watch is to see how Coach Bray manages the storm and how those players continue to respond down the stretch. How do you see it?
Yeah, it's a great point. And, there does seem to be this almost fatalistic resignation that the season, in a sense, starts a week from this Friday night, in terms of, okay, now you begin to dig your way out.
Yes.
And can you? And that's almost just an acceptance of the unfortunate place that the rivalry game, Civil War game is now heading into this matchup this weekend in Eugene. What I'd like to see there is, the Beavers finally play clean. You know what I mean? Play clean for as much as possible for 60 minutes. There's no such thing as a perfect game for anybody. In football. I mean, things will go wrong, and you got a lot of other good guys on the other team over there. I've been preparing my depth chart, and it's a little, yeah, him too. Oh, yeah, another 4-star, 5, him too. I mean, as I'm writing down all my notes on these guys, it's a formidable group, and I understand it, and some think they may be the best team in the country. So in terms of what the expectations are for Saturday, I know Trent Bray's a fighter and a competitor and a believer, and he'll have his guys, I think, really revved up to play, particularly after what he felt, and it was the most astonishing thing to me so far this year. The special teams, I retract that. The special teams play in the Fresno State game is still one of the most amazing things and unfortunate that I've seen because it cost them a win. However, to see guys at Texas Tech and Trent Bray himself, that's the truth teller. He's calling out his guys for not playing at full speed with a full physical effort. And he said it after the game. He's reiterated that. He has their full attention. I think you're going to see an Oregon State team Saturday with absolutely nothing to lose, with no expectations upon them whatsoever. Play hard, play fast, play loose, and I think play their best game now of the season. Now, where that leaves them, who knows? But I think you could take that. I want to see them play clean and sound football in all phases. And Malik Murphy against a young secondary, and that's the one thing Joel Klatt and others have said, well, does Oregon have any kind of Achilles heel? Well, I do think Malik Murphy, who's hit 14 plays of 20 yards or more, and that's 17th in the country in terms of those kinds of chunk plays against a young, talented, albeit, but young secondary. If the Beavers can keep Malik upright enough, and I understand that's a pretty big if against that great front, I think there's some plays to be had in the passing game. If you can hit enough of those, create a little doubt in the other guy, you can maybe, I think, be in a much more competitive situation than the odds makers and a lot of people feel what's going to happen on Saturday. But whatever does happen, play well. Give yourself some confidence against a great team in a tough environment. And then, as you're saying, Chad, get on that back end, begin the back end in Game 5 of the schedule that has wins. You play to your ability. There's wins to be had, and I think make a push toward a postseason game, which if the Beavers are there at the end of the year, good on Trent, and it's clear that he is the right person to kind of get you out of the slump and get you back on your feet into the new Pac-12 next year.
We're talking to the great Mike Parker here on the Rip City Drive. I wanted your take on Malik Murphy. I'm not in the locker room, and I don't have the benefit of being around him, but what I do like from what I see is how he's carried himself through the difficulty to kick off the year with his leadership and his comments. And when I see that, I'm like, man, it's really nice to have a quarterback with those type of abilities also kind of setting the tone for his teammates. I've been impressed with what I've seen from him so far. What's your read on Malik?
Absolutely. He is a true leader at the most demanding position in sports. And he's had some rough moments himself. He's had some throws that, have been, quote-unquote, ill-advised. He'd like to have back. But he can make some throws, Chad. If you've seen enough of him, you know that. And I think even Dan Lanning, now coaches always engage and coach speak about the other team, but I know Lanning knows that probably is the one area that he may be a little concerned about is that big arm of Malik Murphy and his ability to make every throw. And it does seem to me, too, that a couple of Beavers here and there, it's a huge loss for the Beavers not to have Darius Clemens in the group this year, the way he was developing near the end and the type of year that was expected. But Taz Reddix and David Wells made a great catch in Lubbock that shows kind of the ability that he has. The Beavers have hit some big shots downfield, and they can hit the home run ball. They need to hit one or two in this game against Oregon. But Malik has the room regardless. Even if he throws an interception here and there, he's accountable for it. He takes it upon himself. He's been a little fiery at times and combative. I know there was sort of a heated exchange that was caught on the sideline, but I chalk that up as a little bit to Gary Payton coming off the floor, jawing at George Karl and Karl back at him in terms of the heat of the moment, competitive juices flowing. Malik's he's strong. He's strong in his arm, strong in his personality and his convictions. And I think in the long run, as this season plays out, those qualities are going to serve him well. He is a leader now, and I think he's going to help lead the Beavers into a better spot when this is all said and done.
All right, the voice of the Oregon State Beavers, Mike Parker. The kickoff will be at noon on Saturday in the Civil War, Oregon and Oregon State from Autzen. Pregame will start on your home of the Beavs, 1190 KX right at 10. Hey, Doc, I really appreciate the time. Enjoy the weekend, and it's always a pleasure when you come on, my friend.
Chad, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Have a great time. I may sneak in and look for you at the Herb Alpert concert.
Disguises so that people won't know that we're getting out of work and enjoying some great music if you want. Disguises so that people won't know that we're getting out of work and enjoying some great music if you want.
Nice idea, Doc. Let's work on it. Thanks for having me on, Chad.
You got it. There you go. The great Mike Parker here on the Rip City Drive. That is a fine professional broadcaster right there. Mike Parker. But, yeah, it's true for the Beavs. What did you expect? Oh, did you think they'd be 2-2? What was the consensus going into the Cal game, Shacker? That it was kind of a coin toss. No one really knew what to expect.
Yeah, because you only want to think positive. You want to think bowl game. You want to think, they're going to start the season with the win, possibly 2-0, and bowl game would still be on the table looking good. But now it's going to be very difficult. You're going to need a big win streak to even have a bowl game. But there were a lot of opinions that the first two games were winnable.
Yeah. I thought they would beat Fresno for sure. So I thought 1-3, they're 0-4. Schedule's been, it's been brutal. But here's the bright spot. After they play Oregon, they're going to play a Friday night game on the 26th against Houston. Then they travel to Appalachian State. Then they're back home to take on Wake Forest. Then they host Lafayette. They get an off week. They play Washington State at Reser, Sam Houston at Reser, and they travel to Tulsa before another off week and then finish up against Washington State. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 games on the schedule where, like Mike said, if they play their best ball, they have a chance to win. So there's going to be opportunity there. And then we'll see how Trent Bray is able to manage. I'll be out. He's rolling Rip City Drive. Don't forget, coming up on this Friday, I'll be out in Gresham for the Rip City Rally, broadcasting live from 3 until 6. So that's going to be awesome. And then another big thing that's coming up, you can join us, Rip City Radio, and the Trailblazers noon to 2 at Pioneer Courthouse Square Sunday, which is September 21st, to celebrate the legend Damian Lillard's return to Rip City and get excited for the upcoming season. The event is open to the public, which will feature a street fair with various Blazer booths, fan-focused activities for all ages, food, music, games, giveaways, and so much more. I will be there noon to 2, and we're going to broadcast live for the Damian Lillard Rip City Return Rally, which is going to be awesome. So get there Sunday noon to 2 at Pioneer Courthouse Square. All right, Rip City Drive here on your home of the Blazers, 620 Rip City Radio. At the Schnitz coming up here in the near future. The problem is it's also on the same night as a Schnitz coming up here in the near future. The problem is it's also on the same night as a Trailblazer game. It is a road game with an early start. It's a 4 o'clock tip-off, correct, Michael?
Yeah, Orlando. It's when they're playing the Orlando Magic, November 10th.
All right, what's the scheduled time for the concert?
7 or 7:30? I see it listed as 7:30.
Okay. So the game will run until roughly about, let's just say 6:30. And then Travis will hop on with his little wrap-up from the road. The good thing is from the road, he doesn't take too long. I could probably be done and wrapped up by 7, which in theory would give me enough time to shoot over to the Schnitz for the show. I've got to make it happen. You know, Herb Albert's a legend and one of my favorites. The question is, well, I know this to be fact. If I don't go see him now, I'll never get a chance to see him again. I think I think Herb's in his 80s. I did watch the documentary. I think it's on Netflix or Prime or I don't know. He's just one of those guys. He's an absolute stud. He's also the man who formed, I think, A&M Records and discovered other stars like the Carpenters. And he's a behemoth. And he's done a lot of great things in the community. And he's also the author of one of the greatest album covers in the history of album covers with Taste of Honey. So, yeah, I'm a big fan. So that's coming up. Very nice. My daughter's hitting me up for Playboy Cardi tickets. He's going to be in Portland. He's awful. He opened for Weekend up in Seattle. I took my daughter and her friend to that show. I was like, who's this Playboy? This is garbage. Not good. But she wants to impress her friends, so I've got that request in. And there you have it.
You got her addicted to concerts.
She loves concerts now. What happens is kids are pretty smart. They're like, wait, Dad works for iHeart. Dad has access to tickets. So, yeah, so now she's hitting me up for stuff. She's learning the game.
The next level is a weekday concert on a school night. That's coming.
Yeah, I don't think I would let that one slide. It's hard enough to get my daughter to go to bed on time without electronics and other distractions. And then she'll wake up tired and then is a real bear in the morning. It's like, well, yeah, this is what happens when you don't get proper rest, honey. So there you go. I got on her last night. She's been drinking my Diet Cokes. You know, I love, it's a delicious beverage. And so I've got, you know, during the summertime, I keep them in the fridge out in the garage to keep them nice and cold. And then during the wintertime, I just leave them in the garage because it's cold anyways. But it's very refreshing. But I got on her. I was like, honey, can you please stop drinking my Diet Cokes? She goes, yeah, as soon as you stop eating my raspberries and blackberries. And I'm like, dang, guilty. I did that. I love blackberries. I love raspberries. The problem I have with the blackberries, why did the seeds always get, like, embedded in my teeth? I had to pull out a toothpick last night and dig around in there trying to figure out how to solve that problem. And that's right. Ryland Trainer has now hit me up. Don't forget about the big game coming up on the 27th. I will be at Providence Park in the Timbers Army with Ryland Trainer and his pops on the 27th.
Nice. I'm going to be at that game, too.
You are?
Yeah.
Are you there for work or for pleasure?
Work, but it's pleasurable work.
Well, I mean, if you're going to do work, it might as well be pleasurable. Yeah, I haven't been to a Timbers game in a long time. Used to work for the Timbers and the Beavers. Very familiar with the Army, but Ryland he's an all-in fan. So I'm going to roll with his pops, and he got his tickets, man. He dialed us in.
You need to root for Timbers goals because then they bust out the chainsaw and cut up the tree.
I want to operate the chainsaw. I always felt like that's when I knew that I had kind of become a man when my dad finally let me cut a log with the chainsaw. I just thought that was cool. But when I was young, he's like, no, you're too young. You know, these things are dangerous devices. I'm like, yeah, that's why I want to use it. But that was cool. Yeah, the chainsaw. What was I used to get? Did I used to get some magazine? Like all this stuff, like I can't remember if it was from the Boy Scouts. I used to get like this illustrated like little magazine in the mail. And on the back page, it'd always have like a little cartoon of what not to do as a kid. I violated all that stuff, you know. WD-40 can with the match. Nerf football with the gasoline. There's a lot of dumb things I did. It's amazing I'm still alive.
Took a horse from a bus driver.
I did. I did.
They should have had a cartoon for it. Don't do that.
That's right. I love telling the story. Anyone that doesn't know the story of my bus driver, Kirk, giving me a horse for Christmas. Like when you share that story, like, wait, what? Let me get this straight, Chad. Your bus driver gave you a horse named Charlie for Christmas, and your parents were okay with that? Yeah. Yeah, it was. It was great, too. It was a great Christmas morning because, number one, I got the stereo that I wanted with the record player, 8-track player, and cassette player with radio. It was awesome. I picked that out of the, I think they're, what were they called? The service merchandise catalogs back in the day. So got the stereo, so I was dialed in there. But when I got up on Christmas morning, I had notes on the floor, like, I don't know, they were taped to the floor, directing me on where to go with arrows. And so eventually they led me downstairs and off to the side of the house to what I think my mom said were French doors, whatever that is. And I opened up the door. It was one of the rare Christmases in Oklahoma where it was snowing that day. I opened up the French doors and walked out on the patio, and there was a friggin' horse that was tied up to my house. And there was an apple, and it said, "My name's Charlie, feed me." So I fed Charlie an apple. And then come to find out it was Kirk, my bus driver, that gave me the horse for Christmas. And I think I developed a connection with him because I was the last stop on the bus route in Oklahoma. And so I was, I would always get off last. And so we developed a connection. And I remember one day I was sick, like I had the flu or some type of bug. And so I was about to vomit. And then when I got off the bus, I did vomit. But he walked me down my long driveway up to the house to make sure I was okay. He was a nice guy. But, of course, in today's world, I mean, I don't know about you, but if the bus driver were to call me and say, "Hey, I would like to give a Christmas present to your daughter for Christmas," I'd be like, "No, thanks. No, I'm good. She doesn't need a horse. She doesn't want a horse. She doesn't need that or this or whatever. No. I'm not going to do that because it's weird." But back then in Oklahoma, not so weird. But that's what happened. It's a legit story. The sad part is but my dad was the only one to come back. I did not find out woods, but my dad was the only one to come back. I did not find out how that story truly ended until I was older and capable of handling such information. But if I would have known how that story ended, I would have been furious at my dad. But yeah, Charlie was sick, but it was great. They're smart. Charlie was very smart, very stubborn. But if I gave him enough sugar cubes or treats, he would let me ride him. But if you didn't give him the sugar cubes beforehand, he would expand his midsection and I wouldn't be able to saddle him up. All right, you guys have a good night. Big thanks to Jeff Schwartz and Mike Parker. Brian O, Fox Sports Radio, will join me tomorrow. I'll be live from Spirit Mountain Casino. And then Friday in Gresham for the Rip City Rally. Sunday, I'll be live noon to 2 from the Rip City Reunion Rally with Damian Lillard. So make sure you come out and join us. Enjoy your night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.